Discover the incredible life-changing secret to transform insults into hidden strength revealed. Jamie Ellis stood behind the counter of the old diner, the comforting hum of flipping pancakes and clattering dishes wrapping around her like a warm, familiar blanket. At 28, she was a force of nature balancing two jobs while caring for her ailing mother, and her smile was so bright it could melt the coldest hearts. Yet, as Jamie poured coffee for the regulars, she felt the sting of judgment from Mr. and Mrs. Bennet, the wealthy couple whose taunts cut deeper than a knife. They sat at their corner booth like royalty, tossing out insults like they were popcorn, entirely unaware of the weight of their spiteful words. Just yesterday, Mrs. Bennet had sneered, "You should really consider a career change, dear. You might find success somewhere other than this greasy spoon." Jamie's heart ached at the thought of her diner, the very heart of the community, being dismissed so easily. But all that changed one fateful morning when she met Mr. Thompson, a decorated veteran with a weathered face full of stories. He ordered a simple breakfast, and as she served him, they struck up a conversation. With every word, she felt the weight of his wisdom lifting her spirits. "Turn your pain into power," he said, his eyes gleaming with a fierce yet gentle fire. In those moments of sharing, his life lessons began to kindle a flicker of hope within her. Maybe there was a world beyond the diner, one where she could pursue her dreams. She thought of the local high school theater program. Could she? Could Jamie Ellis, a simple waitress, step into the spotlight? But just when life seemed to offer a glimmer of possibility, the ground fell out from beneath her. Her mother's condition took a worrying turn, and fear crept in like a shadow. The Bennets' cruel jabs echoed louder, planting seeds of self-doubt deep within her heart. As grief and anxiety consumed her, the idea of facing the world felt impossible. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the annual community event loomed, the weight of expectation pressed heavily on Jamie. The loud whispers of the Bennets thrummed in her ears, and her confidence fizzled like a soda left open too long. Yet, something stirred within her, igniting a determination she didn't know she possessed. Standing before her friends and neighbors, she took a deep breath and summoned the courage to confront the couple. Tears streamed down her cheeks as she bared her soul, recounting her struggles and the love for her mother. The crowd hung on her every word, eyes widening with recognition of her pain and strength. But just as hope bloomed in Jamie's heart, a daunting possibility loomed overhead. Would her community back her up against the power of privilege and prejudice? The diner buzzed with anticipation, and she found herself at a crossroads, the eyes of her community fixed on her. Would she rise above the hurt, turning her scars into strength, or would the shadow of fear swallow her whole? With her heart pounding, Jamie stood tall, ready to take that leap into the unknown, leaving everyone yearning for what lay ahead. The energy in the diner was palpable. Jamie could feel the collective breath of the crowd as they leaned in, their eyes wide with anticipation. She never expected to find herself at the center of such attention, her heart pounding in her chest like a drum. The moments stretched out infinitely as she stood there, feeling the suffocating pressure of the Bennets' scorn and the weight of her own doubts. Why did I let their words matter? She wondered, her mind racing back to all the harsh comments she had endured. Mr. Thompson's encouraging words echoed in her ears, "Turn your pain into power." In that stirring moment, Jamie embraced the truth they revealed. She pushed through her fear, focusing on the faces before her. Each was a reminder of where she came from, the community that had stood by her in hard times, the people who depended on her smile, the diner where she poured her heart into every single dish. "I may not be wealthy," she spoke, her voice steady despite the nervous tremor in her hands, "but I have something that money can't buy, the love of family, friends, and this community. We're all fighting our fights, aren't we?" She searched the crowd for a nod, a sign that they felt what she felt. A soft murmur rippled through the diner, and she pressed on. "Here, in this diner, we support each other. We laugh together, we cry together. This place is the heart of our town, and it deserves respect. The words fell from her lips like an unbroken chain, intertwining each person in that booth with a bond of resilience. In that moment, the crowd erupted into applause, claps echoing off the diner walls, igniting a spark within her. The air hummed with encouragement. Jamie felt warmth flood through her. Was this what it felt like to be truly seen? The realization brought an unexpected smile to her face, washing away the weight of the Bennetts' pride. But the applause quickly faded, replaced by a chilling silence as Mrs. Bennett, her face turning scarlet with anger, stood up. You think just a few words will change things? You're still just a waitress. She shot back, venom dripped from her tone. The color drained from Jamie's face, fear reeling back in. Could she really forge ahead against the tide of privilege and condescension? The eyes of the town flicked curiously between the two women, the atmosphere charged with suspense. Would this moment define her? Gathering every ounce of courage she could muster, Jamie wiped away her tears with the back of her hand. I may be a waitress, but I create a place where people belong. You can't belittle that. Each word felt like a weight lifting, setting her free from years of emotional chains. The diner erupted in supportive shouts, and Jamie couldn't help but notice a few nods of admiration. She had been transformed, something deep within her, a flicker of determination igniting a flame. Jamie had uncovered her strength, but as the confrontation with Mrs. Bennett reached its peak, she realized this was only the beginning. Who will stand with me? She called out, voice rising above the clamor, ready to rally her community. Would the people she loved stand tall with her, or would they hesitate, allowing fear to reign? As she met the eyes of her friends, concern creased their brows. The time for action had come, but would they rise as one, or wither under pressure? Jamie's heartache morphed into hope, yet it hung on a thread as she awaited their response. Would she finally take that leap of faith, or fall back into the shadows of doubt? The room was thick with tension. Jamie could hear the low whispers of uncertainty mixed with the familiar hum of the diner. Was this really how it would end? Would they watch her fall back into silence, or were they ready to rise and support her? Then, it happened. One brave soul, Tommy, the local mechanic with grease-stained hands and a heart of gold, stood up. I'm with you, Jamie. It takes guts to stand up for what's right. His voice rang true, slicing through the air, and suddenly, the energy shifted. People began to nod. A mix of quiet determination and shared vulnerability spread like wildfire. One by one, they stood. First, it was Mrs. Johnson, the sweet old lady who owned the flower shop. I've loved that diner since my husband used to bring me here on dates. She exclaimed, her hands clasped tightly over her heart. Soon her declaration was joined by others: the baker, the teacher, the kids who grew up in this very diner, all willing to step into the light. The applause returned, stronger this time, filling the diner with a symphony of solidarity. As the claps resonated off the checkered walls, Jamie felt her fear distill into pure energy. This was no longer just about her, it was about everyone who had ever felt small, anyone who had ever been belittled. Together, we can show them that we matter. Her voice danced with excitement, the crowd swelling like the tide, lifting her spirits. Then, a voice broke through, sharp and challenging. It was Mrs. Bennett again, her brows knitting together in disdain. You think this makes you strong? It's a delusion, Jamie. You're nothing more than a glorified waitress. The room turned again, silence falling like a shroud over previously free hearts. Jamie's chest tightened. But then she felt the warmth of support surrounding her, like a thick protective blanket. No, we're more than that. She shouted back, her voice echoing with resolve. I'm proud of what I do, and I love this diner. It's not just about the food, it's about community. That's something you'll never understand. The room erupted once more, voices shouting in agreement, even her own friends now joining in the chorus. Jamie's heart raced, and amidst the certainty, she struck upon a realization: she wasn't alone. These people believed in her too. But beneath the triumphant noise, Jamie couldn't ignore the heaviness gathering in Mrs. Bennett's eyes. A mix of disbelief and rage simmered beneath the surface. Mrs. Bennet was used to being at the top, used to her privileges. Maybe the crowd's reaction struck a nerve, an unsettling truth that perhaps not everyone agreed with her. "Do you really think you can change minds with just words, Jamie?" Mrs. Bennet challenged, her cheeks reddening further. "You can't fight against what you don't understand." Jamie felt a chill, uncertainty snaking back into her thoughts. Was her fight futile? Could words and passion really inspire change against such deep-rooted entitlement? But as she looked around at the faces of her community, her heart surged again with hope. "It's not just about changing minds," she declared, her resolve solidifying. "It's about changing hearts. Let us get together and restore what this diner means to us." Cheers erupted, drowning out lingering doubts, yet Jamie sensed a storm brewing in Mrs. Bennet's reaction. The fire ignited within her community, but what would it take to keep that flame alive? As the crowd began to chant her name, she knew this was just the beginning. The leap she took today wasn't about falling into shadows or stepping aside, it was about creating waves that could challenge everything. But would they have the strength to face what lay ahead? The answer depended on her next move, and she could almost hear the whispers of the Bennets looming behind her. What if this was the light that illuminated hidden truths in the darkest corners of their town? Yet, would it be enough to unmask the pride they held? Eager for their first step as a united front, Jamie inhaled deeply, heart racing. This was just the start of a larger journey, but how would she lead them through the coming chaos? The energy in the diner pulsed like a heartbeat, and Jamie could feel the warmth of the crowd building around her. Hope mingled with fear, creating a cocktail of emotions that threatened to spill over. Tommy, still standing proudly, extended his arm to the table beside him. "Join us. We are more than just a diner, we are family." One after another, familiar faces came forward, filling the space with a shared sense of purpose. The baker, with flour dusting the tips of his fingers, raised a fist. "I'll host community dinners. Free meals for everyone who wants to come." His enthusiasm sparked nods and murmurs of agreement, lifting the room higher. But then Jamie caught sight of Mrs. Bennet, her expression a mix of anger and disbelief. The tension wrapped tight around Jamie's chest again. Does she really think she can tear us apart? Jamie wondered, her heart racing. Doubts crept in, but she shook her head, clearing her thoughts. "Your words don't define us," Jamie called out, fixing her gaze on Mrs. Bennet. "They're only as strong as we let them be." The words left her lips like a declaration, and the crowd responded with a renewed uproar of support. "Let us turn the diner into a gathering place for all voices," shouted the school teacher, her eyes bright with inspiration. "A place for art, music, and learning. We can show them how a community thrives together." Exactly. Jamie felt the fire within her reigniting. It was more than just words now. It was a movement. Let us organize a festival. We can invite everyone in town and show them the true spirit of this diner. Let us celebrate our stories and our food. Cheers rang through the diner, echoing off the walls like an anthem. Jamie felt the energy swell, it seared through her confidence, blanketing her in that protective warmth again. Yet Mrs. Bennet remained unmoved. Her stance felt like a wall, and Jamie could sense the stone-cold disdain emanating from her. "This is all just a temporary distraction, Jamie. A futile attempt at community," she barked, her voice piercing through jubilant laughter. But in the rapture, Jamie noticed a shift among the crowd. Whispers of agreement rippled through them, challenging Mrs. Bennet's cold rationale. "We've had enough." One voice rose above the rest, then another joined in. "This is our place." Without hesitation, Jamie seized the moment. "You're right," she declared, pointing at Mrs. Bennet. "Perhaps you don't understand the power of connection. But we do. It's our heartbeats paired with laughter, our stories mixed with shared meals." And just like that, the air turned electric. The diner buzzed, their united voices wrapping around Jamie like a protective shield, while Mrs. Bennet's world felt increasingly distanced. "Let us put together a town meeting. We can plan this festival right now." Tommy shouted, rallying the crowd once more. Ideas flowed freely, people gasping with excitement and anticipation of what was to come. Younger voices, passionate and bold, began shouting out suggestions. But as plans took flight, Jamie couldn't shake off a feeling deep within. Was this euphoria only masking the rising tide of opposition? Mrs. Bennet was no ordinary foe, she had connections and the power to sway that could easily crush their newfound spirits. Still, determination fluttered in Jamie's chest. They had taken the first bold step together, refusing to bow down. The weight of camaraderie filled her heart. This was where the soul of their diner truly thrived. As they came to a pause, Jamie faced her community again with hope in her eyes. Let us not just talk about change. Let us live it. The crowd erupted, but she noticed the flicker of eyes darting back toward Mrs. Bennet. Would she strike again? The urgency jangled in the air. How long could they ride the wave of unity before the undercurrents of fear pulled them apart? The festival might just be a beginning, or it could become a pivotal battle. They had ignited a spark that day, but could they truly unite against the looming shadow casting over their diner? The question hung in the air, tantalizing and heavy. Jamie inhaled, heart racing. What if this was only the start of a much bigger fight? The chatter in the diner grew electric, voices merging into a symphony of optimism and defiance. Jamie could see it, the hope dancing in people's eyes, the belief that they were standing at the edge of something vital. She closed her eyes for a second, absorbing the pulse of this moment, but that nagging feeling didn't leave her. Mrs. Bennet was still there, simmering like a storm cloud. Let us take action. Tommy pounded his fist on the table, drawing Jamie back into focus. Who's in charge of decorations? Let's make it colorful. Music? We need a band. Ideas flowed like coffee, hot and strong. The aroma of fresh pastries mixed with possibilities. A group of teens who used to hang back shyly now shouted excitedly, suggesting games and art displays. We can showcase talent from our school. One girl exclaimed, her cheeks flushed with enthusiasm. As names and roles were tossed around, Jamie felt a warm glow start to settle deep within her. They were becoming more than just a diner now, they were a living tapestry of their town, woven together by shared dreams. Yet each cheer that pierced the air felt burdened by the weight of Mrs. Bennet's disbelief. Jamie turned her gaze back to the woman. She was standing stiff, shaking her head slowly as if trying to mentally erase all the joy blooming around her. Her disdain carved an invisible line in the room, as palpable as the delicious scent of the pastries. Do you really think this will change anyone's mind? Mrs. Bennet's voice was sharp and clear, slicing through the din as she addressed Jamie. The room quieted, a collective breath held as they anticipated Jamie's response. You're just a bunch of dreamers clinging to one little place that can't possibly do anything against the forces at play. Fear clawed at Jamie's throat, but she refused to back down. Mrs. Bennet, she said, digging deep into her conviction, what we're doing here isn't about changing hearts overnight. It's about showing up, about being brave enough to fight for what we believe in. The room hung on her every word. True community is built in moments like these. It's when we come together and share who we are. That's real power. One by one, heads nodded, expressions of support blossoming. But Jamie could see Mrs. Bennet's facade begin to crack, just for a moment. Did she feel the stirrings of uncertainty beneath her icy exterior? I don't expect you to understand, Jamie continued. But the heart of this diner, and of our town, lies in our connections. We can build something beautiful out of this struggle, together. Tommy clapped his hands, rallying the crowd again. Let us break into teams. We'll meet next week to keep the momentum going. Excitement bubbled, pushing back the darkness. Plans were made as laughter and chatter filled the diner once more, overpowering the shadows slowly creeping around them. As they stood up from the tables, carving their paths through the scattered crowd, Jamie's heart surged. They were not just planning a festival, they were igniting a revolution of love and belonging. But just as Jamie felt herself gliding through the euphoria, a sudden chill edited the warmth around her. Mrs. Bennet was sneering, her eyes narrowing as if examining every soul in the diner. Keep dreaming, Jamie. Every fairy tale needs a villain. Jamie swallowed hard at the weight of her words. A villain? Could Mrs. Bennet truly be the adversary they needed to overcome? Would her determination push the community into a deeper bond, or would it unravel everything they had started? The air thickened with anticipation and unspoken fears, a new battle line drawn in a world that felt precarious yet alive. Jamie took a deep breath, hope mingling with uncertainty. The festival was just days away. Was this the moment they would rally to triumph, or would they falter under the pressure of opposition? The answer was somewhere in the depths of their resolve, and Jamie was determined to find it. As she stepped outside the diner, the evening sky painted in hues of desperation and optimism, she couldn't shake the feeling that the real fight had only just begun. The days leading up to the festival felt like a whirlwind. Jamie couldn't shake the palpable tension in the air. Each morning, she committed to waking early, the sun spilling through her bedroom window, illuminating her determination. The plans buzzed in her head, flooding her thoughts with excitement. However, there was always that shadow lurking behind her. Mrs. Bennet's chilling words played on repeat. In the diner, the atmosphere had shifted. People were gathering not just to eat or chat anymore but to weave their dreams into reality. Laughter danced like fireflies around Jamie, but each giggle reminded her of the looming storm cloud. As she moved through the bustling diner, a part of her wanted to shout, "Look what we can do!" But the other part worried, what if it wasn't enough? What if Mrs. Bennet was right? "Jamie." The voice cut through her thoughts. It was Tommy, his eyes alight with ideas. "We need to finalize the schedule. Will we have a performance from the band or an open mic?" "I think an open mic will draw more people." "Yes. That could really showcase our talent," Jamie responded, forcing a smile as she tried to reignite the spark of excitement. As plans fell into place, the community began to pulse with anticipation. Flyers were being posted all around town, the tension brewing into something combustible. Middle schoolers offered to perform skits, local businesses pitched in to donate food, and the older folks shared tales of the diner's history. Jamie watched, her heart swelling with pride, yet dread lingered at the edges of her excitement like an unwelcome winter chill. "Let us do this," she called out one afternoon as they gathered for another meeting. "We need to remember why we're doing it. It's about unity. It's about joy." The cheers from her peers felt empowering, but the moment Mrs. Bennet walked in, the cheers faltered. The mood shifted like a sudden gust of wind. Jamie braced herself, glancing at her friends who were now glued to Mrs. Bennet's presence. "I hope you're all ready for a reality check," she said, her voice cutting sharply across the room. "You think hosting a festival will change anything? It's a cute little distraction, but it won't matter in the grand scheme of things." The collective anxiety was palpable, a little knot tightening in Jamie's stomach. She took a step forward, feeling her heart thrum like a drum. "But it will matter to us. Every small connection, every single interaction creates waves. We're planting seeds of change. And what happens when reality crushes those seeds?" Mrs. Bennet folded her arms, the sharpness in her voice unwavering. Jamie hesitated, caught between the urge to fight back and the desire to sink into the floor. Doubts threatened to drown her hopes, but she knew she had to stand firm not just for herself, but for everyone who believed in what they were doing. "Sometimes, hope is enough," Jamie replied finally, her voice steadier than she felt. "Sometimes, the risks we take and the small gestures we make can light the way for others. We're not just throwing a festival, we're igniting conversations and building bridges in this community." Silence fell again, awkward yet charged with the kind of tension that often preceded a storm. Jamie caught sight of a few nods. The flickers of determination sparked in eyes around the room, and she felt the swell of something powerful building within them all. Mrs. Bennet dismissed them with a wave of her hand, but Jamie could see that her words didn't land as harshly as before. She wondered, was Mrs. Bennet beginning to crack? Could Jamie's steadfast belief change even one heart? As they wrapped up, Tommy leaned closer. "What if she tries to sabotage us during the festival? I mean, what is stopping her?" Despite the fear creeping into her bones, Jamie straightened. We'll face those challenges head-on, together. The festival was not just about a day of fun, it was a stand. But would they be ready for whatever came their way? Jamie stepped outside to catch her breath, the wind brushing against her cheek like a whisper of reassurance. The festival was just one heartbeat away. What awaited them would determine their story, not just theirs, but the entire community's. Would they rise together, or would one villain change the course of their hopes? The answer loomed just around the corner, the thrill of the unknown pressing against her chest. As the days counted down to the festival, Jamie found herself wrapped in a delicate balance of excitement and anxiety. She woke every morning, her heart racing with anticipation, the sun greeting her like an old friend ready to embrace a new adventure. But even with that warmth, Mrs. Bennett's words echoed through her mind, a constant reminder of what lay at stake. Meeting after meeting filled the diner with energy. Tommy continued to rally the troops, brainstorming ideas that would make the festival unforgettable. They circulated a sign-up sheet for the open mic, and Jamie was astonished to see nearly everyone in town jotting down their names. It felt like a renaissance of community spirit, a tangible hope igniting deep within her. Yet, as the sun set each night, casting longer shadows, Jamie couldn't shake off the shadow of doubt. What if they really couldn't pull it off? She stood outside on the diner's porch one evening, watching the fading light. Her friends' laughter spilled out from the diner, but behind her grin lay a knot of uncertainty tightening around her heart. "Hey, Jamie!" A familiar voice broke her reverie. It was Sarah, clutching her guitar, fresh from her last practice. "You really think we can make a difference, right? With the festival?" Jamie turned, feeling the sincerity in Sarah's eyes. "I do," she replied softly. "I think we have to try. Every moment we share together brings us closer." "But what if Mrs. Bennett is right?" Sarah's voice trembled slightly. "What if this all goes nowhere?" In that moment, Jamie could see their shared fear reflected in Sarah's expression, and it felt like a weight she could lift if she tried hard enough. "Sometimes," she said, "it's the hope that matters most. Even if it feels small, it's still powerful." Just as Jamie expressed her determination, a sudden noise interrupted them. A loud crash came from inside the diner. Tommy's voice rose above the others. "What was that?" Jamie's pulse quickened. Without thinking, she rushed inside, the scent of coffee and fried food mixing in the air. The laughter had evaporated, replaced by shocked gasps. A table had been overturned. Amidst the commotion, Mrs. Bennett stood there, arms crossed tightly. An empty jar lay shattered at her feet, a once promising donation jar for the festival, now a mess of broken glass. "What a surprise," she sneered, her voice dripping with mockery. "It seems you can't even keep a simple jar upright." "Everyone, just calm down." Jamie stepped forward, her voice rising above the chaos. "Let us clean this up together." But Mrs. Bennett stepped closer, fire sparking in her eyes. "What you're doing is foolish. This community is built on reality, not silly dreams and distractions." With that, the room fell silent. Jamie's heart thudded in her chest, but she didn't flinch. "Maybe it is foolish, but it's our foolishness. And we'll show you that it's enough." Tommy chimed in, his face a mixture of determination and anger. "Stop trying to break our spirit, Mrs. Bennett. Your reality doesn't have to be ours." The tension in the diner surged like a current, and Jamie could feel the resolve building inside her friends. They were strong together. They could transform that broken jar into a testament of their resilience. As they cleaned up, Jamie's resolve solidified. They would turn Mrs. Bennett's mockery into fuel, igniting a fire that couldn't be extinguished so easily. She could almost see it, the future they were trying to forge. The festival was drawing nearer, but so was the confrontation with Mrs. Bennett. Jamie would have to rally her friends, not just for entertainment, but for their own truths and dreams. Would they stand strong against the storm, or would a single voice drown out their thunder? Jamie had to know, and she felt the urgency pulling her forward. The festival was a day away, and the real battle was about to begin. Would the bonds they formed be enough to rise above the skepticism, or would they falter when it mattered most? Jamie stood there, her hands trembling as she knelt to pick up the shards of glass. Each piece felt like a fragment of Mrs. Bennet's mockery stabbing at her determination. Around her, the diner buzzed with nervous energy. People picked up chairs and set the table right, but the weight of doubt hung thick in the air. "Let us focus on what matters," Jamie called out, her voice steadying as she glanced at her friends. "This festival isn't just another event. It's a chance for all of us to come together, to show the world what we can do." Tommy stepped next to her, offering a reassuring smile. "Yeah. Let us turn this around. Together." His words sparked a flicker of hope, and a few patrons nodded, their resolve visibly lifting. "Jamie, the jar was an accident," Sarah said softly, dusting her hands on her jeans. "We'll just keep moving forward." "It doesn't mean." "I know," Jamie interrupted gently, her heart quickening at Sarah's hesitance. "But we can't let her win, right?" Hours flew by in a whirlwind of plans and excitement. They worked relentlessly in the diner, turning the chaos into creativity as they crafted signs, set up decorations, and even practiced their open mic performances. Jamie felt the anxious knot inside her heart loosening as they pooled their talents and ideas together. As night fell, laughter filled the diner once more, spilling out into the street like a melody. Jamie stepped outside for a moment of respite, breathing in the cool night air. The stars twinkled like tiny hopes in the sky, and she felt the warmth of the community wrapping around her. "Hey!" Sarah's voice called from behind. "You okay?" "Yeah," Jamie replied, forcing a bright smile. "Just thinking about how much we've done. And how much more there is to do." Sarah leaned against the porch railing, her fingers lightly strumming her guitar. "You really think we can pull this off? Even with Mrs. Bennet breathing down our necks?" Jamie tilted her head back, looking at the stars again. "Every time I doubt, I think about our moments together, the laughter, the support. Those mean something. We can't let anyone, not even Mrs. Bennet, take that away from us." "All right then," Sarah agreed, her voice firm. "Let us make this festival ours. Show her and everyone else what we're made of." The next day buzzed with anticipation. As the sun rose, Jamie put on her favorite shirt, the one that felt like armor. Today was the day. With butterflies in her stomach, she gathered her friends and walked toward the town square, her heart pounding in time with the rhythmic beat of excitement swirling around them. Crowds were already starting to gather as vendors filled the square, their booths vibrant with colors and enticing scents. Beneath the bright decorations, Jamie's heart raced, a symphony of emotions overwhelming her. Would they be enough together? Would the festival really ignite hope in their small town? Suddenly, Jamie noticed Mrs. Bennet's car parked on the edge of the square. An icy grip of dread gripped her stomach. There she was, arms crossed, face twisted with scorn. Jamie's heart sank slightly, but she straightened her shoulders. This was their moment. "Look," she whispered to Tommy and Sarah, nodding toward Mrs. Bennet. "We have to show her. Show everyone." As they set up their booth with banners and decorations, Jamie noticed the whispers and uncertain glances directed her way. She couldn't shake the feeling that they were under a magnifying glass. And just when she thought things couldn't get more intense, the town mayor stepped up to the microphone. The moment of truth was approaching, and with it came the weight of expectations. Jamie took a deep breath, feeling the warmth of her friends around her. Would her voice rise above the noise? And would their dreams together break through the barriers of doubt? A strange thrill coursed through her. She was ready to face whatever lay ahead. But just as the mayor began to speak, Jamie saw Mrs. Bennet step forward, determined and ready with her own words, ready to dim the light Jamie and her friends had worked so hard to ignite. What would she say? The tension in the air crackled like a live wire, and Jamie knew this was just the beginning. Mrs. Bennet stepped to the front, her heels clicking sharply against the pavement, cutting through the festival buzz like a knife. Jamie's heart raced. She wasn't ready for this showdown. The crowd hushed, eyes now darting between the mayor and Mrs. Bennet. Jamie's friends exchanged worried glances. This wasn't how things were supposed to go. Jamie felt her throat constrict. They had worked so hard, and here was the specter of doubt looming over them, ready to crush their hopes. "Thank you all for coming today," the mayor said, his voice warm yet firm. "This festival is a testament to our community's spirit." He gestured to the colorful stalls, the laughter of children nearby, and the vibrant decorations. "It's a day to celebrate each other." But Mrs. Bennet wasn't here to celebrate. She stepped closer to the microphone, the brightness of the festival contrasting sharply with her dark expression. "As you all know, I've always had concerns about the impact of these events. They can distract from more pressing matters in our town." Her words dripped with disdain, and the tension was palpable. Jamie clenched her fists. Those words, thick with condescension, felt like a challenge. She exchanged a look with Tommy, who gave her a nod of encouragement. He knew what this meant. It was time to rise, to push back against the negativity. "Mrs. Bennet, this festival isn't just about fun. It's about hope for us and for the future," Jamie shouted, her voice cutting through the awkward silence that surrounded them. Gasps erupted from the crowd. Tommy and Sarah looked at her with wide eyes, but something deep inside Jamie surged. "We're showing that our community can come together, lift each other up, and celebrate our talents." The crowd began to murmur, a ripple of energy flowing across the square. Jamie's heartbeat drummed louder in her ears as she stepped forward, drawing strength from the gathering momentum. "We can make this place better. We just need to believe in each other." Mrs. Bennet's expression hardened. "And who is in charge here, Jamie? A group of teenagers playing make-believe? I've seen far better attempts at real change." But now the whispers had transformed into a chorus of voices rising to meet Mrs. Bennet's contempt. "We believe in them," someone shouted, as others chimed in, echoing Jamie's sentiment. "They can do this." Jamie felt a rush of warmth and energy surge through her at the unexpected support. This was not just about her anymore, it was about all of them. She looked back at her friends, seeing their fierce determination reflected in their eyes. "Mrs. Bennet," Jamie added, her voice steady despite the tempest of emotions inside her, "change doesn't come from authority. It comes from the ground up. We're the future, and we won't be ignored." In that moment, Jamie saw more than just resistance, she saw resolve. The crowd behind her began to cheer, clapping and shouting their support. Mrs. Bennet tightened her grip on the microphone, her face a mask of disbelief mixed with anger. But Jamie had disrupted her power. This was no longer merely a festival, they were standing on the precipice of something real. They had found their voice, and with it came strength. As applause echoed around the square, Jamie turned back to the crowd, buoyed by their energy. "Let us show everyone here today just how much we can shine." But just as the cheering reached a fever pitch, the sky darkened momentarily, a storm cloud rolling in, casting a shadow over the vibrant colors of the festival. For a moment, Jamie froze, uncertainty creeping back in. Was this a sign? A new challenge? Is this really just the beginning? She wondered as the mood shifted, a gust of wind whipping through the square. What would it take to hold on to this momentum? What would the storm bring next? As the clouds rolled in, their darkness threatened to overshadow the festival, but Jamie stood firm, determination fueling her every thought. A sense of unity surrounded her, warm and electric. She looked into the faces of the crowd, her friends, her neighbors. They had each other's backs, and that connection was more powerful than any storm. "Can you feel it?" she shouted over the rumble of the wind. "This is our moment. A moment to prove to ourselves and everyone watching that we're a family, and families support one another." The cheers erupted again, louder this time, louder than any drizzle that might fall. Jamie lifted her fist in the air, channeling the spirit of hope that swirled through the crowd. They were standing at the edge of something great, fierce and unstoppable. "Let us kick this festival off. Regardless of what she says, we're here to celebrate, to show our talents, to share our stories." Tommy's voice rang out, rallying everyone's spirits. The power of community was shifting the winds. Just as realization dawned, the first drops of rain began to fall. They spattered against the pavement, heavy and determined. Jamie's heart raced. But instead of retreating or panicking, the crowd embraced the shower. "Rain or shine, this is our day," Jamie proclaimed, recalling every moment they had put into this festival. Huddled together, her friends were the real stars shining in this storm. Their laughter danced through the rain, their smiles vibrant against the gray backdrop. The festival transformed from a simple event into something more meaningful. The rain soaked into their spirits, but it didn't extinguish the fire that ignited within them. They carried on, moving even closer together, celebrating every unique moment. Music filled the air, laughter spiraled into the droplets, and the warmth of their connections radiated despite the cool weather. Mrs. Bennet stood stunned, glancing around, her expression flickering between disbelief and irritation. Jamie caught her eye and felt a swell of courage rise within her. "See this?" she shouted over the sound of falling rain, waving her arms. "This is what real community looks like. We're stronger than any criticism. Today isn't about labels, it's about love." Maybe it was in that moment, amidst the downpour, that the true power of the festival revealed itself. It wasn't just about the food or the music, it was about acceptance, about voices uniting. One by one, the crowd began to gather around Jamie, hands interlaced, the community blossoming in the rain. "Keep going," shouted Mrs. Johnson, her face blissfully radiant even while drenched. "This is our time." A wave of renewed energy surged through Jamie, and as if on cue, the town erupted into spontaneous performances. Music soared, laughter bounced off the sidewalks, and even Mrs. Bennet's glare faded. She was but a shadow in a sunlit dream. "Let us keep this going," someone called out, and the crowd formed an impromptu dance circle. Sarah took center stage, her voice chiming through the droplets, those familiar notes sweeping away everyone's fears as they danced freely, hand in hand. Time became fluid as the rain increased, but no one seemed to care. In those moments beneath the gray sky, Jamie saw her vision unfold: a celebration, a movement, a space where every voice mattered, where hope danced rain-soaked through timid balconies of doubt. But as the festival continued to burgeon with life, Jamie felt a shift in the atmosphere. Mrs. Bennet began to move, edging closer, her eyes less venomous and more calculating. Just as Jamie's heart began to flutter with uncertainty, she caught a glimpse of recognition in the older woman's eyes as she witnessed the unity surrounding her. "Jamie!" Mrs. Bennet called out, the challenge in her voice wavering slightly. Jamie swallowed hard, unsure if she was prepared for another confrontation. "Yes?" Jamie replied, her voice steadier than she felt. Without addressing the crowd, the weight of Mrs. Bennet's words hung like the clouds above. "You really think this has any long-term impact? This? It's just a rain dance, a fleeting moment in time. You think it's enough?" In that moment, Jamie drew on all of her strength and spoke directly from the heart. "It's a start. Change doesn't happen overnight. But today we're sowing seeds. With every laugh, every story shared, we stitch ourselves into something much bigger. Each interaction has the potential to shift perspectives." A hush fell over the crowd, anticipation hanging thick in the air. Jamie felt eyes on her, waiting, hoping. It was now or never. As Mrs. Bennet opened her mouth to retort, the crowd began to chant her name. "Jamie! Jamie!" The melody of their faith enveloped the space, drowning out the uncertainty. For the first time, Jamie saw the flicker of understanding in Mrs. Bennet's eyes. She was standing on the precipice of transformation, inching closer to something profound. Perhaps, just perhaps, she was beginning to see their community through a different lens. Together, Jamie continued, emboldened by her peers, we can create real change. We won't just shine for today. We'll build a tomorrow worth fighting for, one where we all belong. At last, Jamie saw it, hope ignited in Mrs. Bennet's gaze as the chants flowed like water, washing away the years of scorn and judgment. This festival had become a powerful crucible of transformation, unveiling that beneath the surface of every conflict was the potential for connection. Jamie, enabled by her unwavering community, realized they could fortify their foundation and face whatever came next with courage. As the rain lightened and the sun began to peek from behind the clouds, Jamie knew in her heart that something magnificent had begun. They weren't just a diner, and they weren't simply a community, they were a movement, and together, they would rise. This was their story, unfolding in the vivid hues of hope. And with each moment that passed, Jamie could feel the shift embracing them all, a promise that change, however small, would ripple far beyond the confines of their diner. As festival-goers celebrated, laughter bound them together like stitches in a well-crafted quilt. Jamie's heart swelled, every ounce of fear had dissolved into this radiant spirit of triumph and belonging. Together, they had transcended the voices of doubt, and she knew this was the legacy they would continue through every challenge and every joy to come. For Jamie Ellis and her beautiful diner, the light of hope would never flicker away. Their stories would resonate, singing bright against the backdrop of every storm. And as the last rays of sunlight broke across the sky, Jamie felt the embrace of her community wrap around her, strong and true. The transformation was real. They had stepped into the spotlight, ready to shine together, ready to face whatever came their way, because now, they knew, they were never alone. It was only the beginning, but together, they were unstoppable. Now it's your turn. If you felt the heart of Jamie's journey like I did, you need to subscribe now to catch the next exclusive stories. Help us grow by leaving a like right this second. Your support makes a difference. Comment below your thoughts and feelings about this transformative ending. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to feel the spirit of hope and connection. Let's spread the word, every voice matters.